4th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Mayor Velasquez.
Here.
Council members Clower.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Friend. Solorio Luna. Present. City Manager Avera.
Present.
City Attorney Sullivan.
Present.
Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
And City Clerk Graves here.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Luna, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister meeting of April 4th, 2016 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on March 30th, 2016 at 10 a.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you very much. City Attorney, do you want to report out from closed session?
Yes, nothing to report. There was a discussion about threatened litigation and what steps, if any, the city should take. And direction was given.
Thank you very much. Tonight we have 4 proclamations: National Public Health Week, Water Awareness Month, Poppy Days, and Municipal Clerks Week. Do we have all those groups here tonight?
I believe so, Mr. Mayor.
We'll start with the National Public Health Week.
And, Mr. Mayor, we have a presentation also.
Okay. You can do the presentation right after you do this.
Okay.
See you guys. Whereas the week of April 4th through the 10th, 2016 is National Public Health Week, and the theme is Healthiest Nation 2030. And therefore, it be resolved that I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, do hereby proclaim April 4th, 2016 through April 10th through 2016 as National Public Health Week in the City of Hollister.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today. My name is Lynn Mello. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Health Services, and I'm here with Cecilia Krett, physical therapist, Martha Lara, Health Education Associate. This year's theme for National Public Health Week is Healthiest Nation in One Generation. What does it mean to influence the health of a generation? When public health initiatives are successful, the results are invisible. What do I mean by that? Think of polio. There's no longer a need for the iron lung used by the thousands in the 1940s and 50s. Think of smallpox. It's been eradicated. Think of the flu. We no longer see global outbreaks of influenza that annihilate millions of people in a 2-year span. Think of smoking. Today, you'd be outraged to enter a doctor's office and see this. How do we measure the results of prevention? We measure them in the future, in retrospect. Our job in public health is to prevent disease, to promote health, and to protect the health of our community and society. And this evening, we're here to reveal the invisible results of public health interventions. And let's start with immunizations. San Benito County's 2015-16 kindergarten immunization rate is 96%, well above the statewide average of 92%. This excellent situation is a direct result of the commitment and collaboration of local partners, parents, healthcare providers, school nurses, and public health advocates. And now Cecilia's going to talk about her area of public health expertise.
Thank you, Lynn, and good evening. California Children's Services, or CCS, is the oldest public health program Thank you. And it was established in 1927 by state legislature. CCS provides physician, hospital, and surgical care, laboratory services, imaging, medications, physical and occupational therapy, and medical equipment to children that have special medical needs to the age of 21. This is Maricela, who woke up one morning over 9 years ago with paralysis throughout her body. Because of the CCS program, she was able to receive medical treatment, physical therapy, and this sit-to-stand wheelchair that allows her to take classes at Gavilan College. She's pursuing her dream of becoming a hairstylist and a fully contributing member of society. Now Martha Lara will tell you about our tobacco prevention and nutrition promotion programs.
Thank you, Cece. It's been nearly 50 years since the discovery of the link between smoking, tobacco, and lung cancer. Back then, you didn't have to buy cigarettes to smoke. All you had to do was breathe in the air in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. Ashtrays were everywhere, and non-smoking areas were rare. California and the nation have struggled long and hard to reduce the tobacco habit, but it's not over yet. With the onslaught of e-cigarettes and other flavored tobacco products aimed at youth, the battle has begun anew. Since its establishment in 1991, the San Benito County Tobacco Education Program has worked strenuously to improve the community's health, respiratory, and cardiovascular health. Working with lawmakers to prevent youth from purchasing tobacco, ban smoking in public places, and remove tobacco products from pharmacies are just a few of the innovative accomplishments we've achieved over the years. Our Tobacco Education Youth Coalition and our other community partners are champions for change at the state and local levels. They can and will create better health for their peers, friends, family members, and the next generation. And now I will talk about our nutrition program. According to the CDC, 1 in 3 U.S. children and teens are considered overweight or obese. The American Heart Association warns that today's children could be the first generation in U.S. history to lead shorter and less healthy lives than their parents. Obesity is linked to health conditions like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, depression, and respiratory disease. The Nutrition Education and Obesity Prevention Program, with its business and community partners, plan to create more healthy checkout lanes like the one in the slide, and provide underserved and low-income populations education that will raise nutrition literacy. Along with our partners in education, we will advocate for school wellness policies that improve nutrition, that will improve school nutrition and increase physical activity. We're also working to bring salad bars to schools and refurbish school gardens to inspire fruit and vegetable consumption. Through these public health efforts, we will give the gift of vibrant, healthy lives to the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Water Awareness Month. Do we have somebody from this group? Mr. Graves?
I was not informed they would not be here, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Whereas California's arid and semi-arid climate, its ambitious and evolving economy, and its continually growing population have combined to make shortages and conflicting demands the norm. Now, therefore, the City of Hollister does proclaim May 2016 as Water Awareness Month and urge all citizens, businesses, industries, institutions, and public agencies to review their water use and water systems for water use efficiencies and to contact their water supplier for water savings ideas and assistance. That would be for May 2016. I'll leave this with you up there.
Thank you.
Poppy Days. I know you're here. We look forward to you every year. Come on up. You have our poppies for us? Yes, I do. All right. Whereas American Legion Post 69 Ladies Auxiliary Poppies are assembled by disabled veterans, and the proceeds of this worthy fundraising campaign are used exclusively for the benefit of disabled and needy veterans and the widows and orphans of deceased veterans. And now, therefore, I, Ignacio Velasquez, don't forget mine. I'm watching you. Mayor of the City of Hollister hereby proclaim May 21st, 2016 as Poppy Days in the City of Hollister and urge the residents of this community to recognize the merits of this cause by contributing generously to its support through the purchase of poppies on these days set aside for the distribution of these symbols of appreciation for the sacrifices of our honored dead. I urge all patriotic citizens to wear a to wear a poppy as mute evidence of our gratitude to the men and women of this country who have risked their lives in defense of the freedoms which we continue to enjoy as American citizens. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And also our Poppy Day will be May 21st.
May 21st.
May 21st.
Let the public know. No, where are you going?
You'll see us out there in the city streets on May 21st. That's the day that we've declared as Poppy Day for Unit 69 here in Hollister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have a proclamation for our city clerk. City Clerks Week, May 1st through May 7th, 2016. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of a local government, exists throughout the world. And now, therefore, I, Ignacio Velasquez, Mayor of the City of Hollister, do recognize the week of May 1st through May 7th, 2016 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal clerk, Thomas A. Graves. Raise your hand there, Mr. Graves. And our deputy city clerk, Christine Black. Is she here tonight? No. Clap for Christine, though. And to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Are you going to come get yours?
Sure.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for all you do. And it is a lot of work that they do, so thank you. Now we're going to move forward to Employee Service Awards, first quarter of 2016. The first one is for Dennis McKnight, 25 years of service.
I'm standing in place of Dennis, Mr. Mayor and Council. He's on a call right now.
That's service.
Typical of the 25 years of service. So, okay. I'm just standing straight. You're not going to put it on. Give me a kiss. Your wife. Maybe can you? Just give it. There it is. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. You can handle the next one?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. I'm here to accept Derek Bates' 15-year service award. He also is unavailable tonight. Most recently, he was out at Vets Park putting the final touches on the refurbished softball field that's being used right now for the first time. Derek is an extremely dedicated employee. It is a pleasure to work with him. He has come a long way since he stepped up to become the Parks and Streets supervisor, and he's just doing outstanding work, and it makes supervising him a pleasure. So thank you on behalf of him.
Thank you, Derek.
Cheryl Mullen, please. This is not a roast. It's all right. Wait till you retire, though. I'm here pleasantly to give Cheryl her 15-year pin. Cheryl came to the city from another city to the north and constantly reminds us that we are way better than they are. So also, she was in like I said, she was in the engineering department for several years. She's moved down to City Hall, one of the first faces that you see when you enter the building, always with a smile on her face. She never has a problem telling me that I'm out of my mind, and I appreciate that on a regular basis. So thank you very much for 15 years. You want to say something? I'm just kidding. Oh. was kidding.
I just wanted to say that it's really an honor to be here. It's been a fast 15 years, and I have nothing but pride in the community I work for, and nothing but respect for the people I work for and with. And I want to thank you for giving me my voice.
Thank you.
Cheryl, do you want to give Maria hers? That was very well done. The next service award that we have tonight is Maria Mendez. Maria came to us, this is her 10th year. You can stand up. Maria actually started with us down in the finance department. She was one of the ones that used to get yelled at on a pretty regular basis. Mickey will probably remember that. Then she moved over to Planning and Development Services and Redevelopment Agency. Now, most recently, she is our new assistant planner after graduating college earlier this year. So, congratulations on your tenure and have fun.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. We're going to move forward with the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull number 6.
A6?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and 9.
A9? Any other items from council? City manager, you had an item?
Yes, Mayor. Item A9, we were just going to continue until a later meeting. We have to do some meet and confer with SEIU.
Okay, are there any questions from the public?
No,
Any
sir.
items? All right.
Motion to approve the balance of consent.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 5-0 vote. Item A6.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I went ahead and I read the agreement between the Veterans of Foreign Wars and American Legion, and I did have the opportunity to meet with the city manager and had some questions that I had were answered. There is one on page, okay, I think it's page 5 of the contract where, and it's number 5 of 5, where it excludes the use of different events for the city of Hollister and other agencies. I noticed that South County Housing is listed, which no longer exist. And I'm just wondering if that can be changed to maybe just housing agencies instead of South County. It's in there, so I'm just wondering if that can be changed also. And there's just some wording that I discussed with the city manager.
Yes, Councilmember Luna mentioned there's a couple of typos, nothing substantial to change any of the terms, but we will fix those. And then also on page 4 under the security section, we did remove a bolded line with discussion about alcohol at certain events. So that has been removed from the most recent version that you folks received today. And like I said, I think there's an S missing on a word and a few other small things. So we'll clean that up, but there's nothing real substantial.
So what we're looking at now is the current.
Yeah, I believe that I believe that you have the most current one on your. Did you get one up there before the meeting? No.
No.
I apologize.
I don't have it over here.
So the newest version that got executed, or the Veterans Group signed earlier today, if you go to page 4 on your screen, about halfway down under section B, it just says effective January 1st, alcoholic beverages that won't be permitted. That line has been completely stricken from the document. That's the most substantial change.
So that would be the copy for the record and the record
Yeah.
with the changes
Yes.
made.
And And I think that as a motion, if Councilmember Luna in her motion wants to have it so that nonprofit housing organizations, or specifically Chispa and or Eden Housing, have use of the building in lieu of South County, because it is true South County doesn't exist anymore. That's your prerogative.
So I do agree with City Manager on the 2 housing agencies, but then we are limiting the
additional-
agreement for 2 housing agencies, and they were tying those 2 names here to the agreement. So I would like just to recommend that we have housing agencies, when they come in and they have a meeting, because when they call a meeting, usually a lot of people show up. And that would be my opinion.
You'd like to change that to allow for all housing agencies,
Housing agencies.
nonprofit housing agencies?
Right.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Do we have any comment cards? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve A6
With the changes?
with the changes that are made, yes.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Excuse me, Councilmember Friend, can you turn your microphone on, please?
Is your microphone on?
It is on. It is on. I
It
didn't
is?
talk to it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can't hear me?
I can now.
Oh. I didn't want you to hear me earlier.
On item A9, we need a motion to table that for a future meeting? Is that what I heard?
Our hope is to have the meet and confer with the SEIU shortly. I don't want to necessarily say it's going to be on the next agenda, so we'll just bring it back
So we
as
need a
soon as possible.
motion to,
So moved.
Second.
Second.
motion and a second to table for a future meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did we have any comment cards before we
No, but I believe that's a motion to continue.
Right.
continue? There's a motion and a second. Get a vote, 5-0. We'll move forward to item B21.
Yes, this item was before you at the March 21st.
There you go.
This item relates to the exclusive negotiating agreement for the Leatherback property. This was presented to you on March 21st, and today we're asking to schedule a study session to explore in more depth some options for the potential disposition of the Leatherback property for governmental use or for commercial use. We're asking if you would be available on the 11th of April for a study session.
Like to schedule on the 11th of April. Are there?
We have a few other small agenda items for that evening as well, if you would like to, if you're available.
Okay.
All right. Just a question on that special meeting. Are you going to send to us some of these ideas so we have a chance to look at them, or are you just going to wait
We
till
can do that.
night? I think it would be helpful if we had a little time to look at them and think about them before the meeting.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But I want to make sure we're not limited to only those items. Have any additional comments? Leave that window open.
Yeah, there will be no action taken.
Okay,
It'll
just
be
study
strictly
session.
discussion.
Okay. Do we have any comment cards?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank
April
you.
11th works for everyone. Thank you very much. Public input. Members of the public may address the City Council on any matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Speaker cards are available in the foyer and are to be completed and given to the City Clerk prior to speaking. State law prohibits the City Council from discussing or taking action on any item which is not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, sir. The first speaker, Marty Richmond.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Marty Richmond from Hollister. My first item is, if we ever permanently fix this microphone, I'm going to miss the point where everybody comes up here 15 times. For me, I'm used to it. I know a lot of people who come here every week or every 2 weeks are used to it. But the people who only come here occasionally are not used to the fact that their microphone gets shut off every time somebody adjusts it. Why don't we fix it? Just a question. So my comment really concerns the road issue. We had a road report. I know it's only a draft. I was very impressed with the report, and I assume you were confident in the report because we paid a reasonable amount of money for it, and you wouldn't have hired somebody you didn't think could do a good job. And I have no reason to believe they did a bad job. But the disturbing issue is that just to hold our own, they estimated we would need $3.8 million a year in road maintenance, and if my understanding of the budget is correct, we're getting about $800,000 out of the gas tax. If the new tax, half-cent sales tax for COG passes, we'll probably get another $1 million for street maintenance. That'll give us $1.8 million. We'd still be very short of what we need just to hold the dam back. We would not be making any improvements, just to make sure things don't go downhill. I recommend highly, even if we were very good at value engineering and took 20% out of their recommendation, we'd still need $3 million, and we were going to be 1.2 short. And it would take a lot of work to do $800,000 worth of value engineering. I assure you that. I recommend you look seriously at taking $1 million out of the Measure E fund money as you pay off this other debt that you are working on, and I congratulate you on that, and the improvement in the city's credit rating, which will pay dividends. We all know that to the people who pay the bills here, the taxpayers. I think you ought to look seriously about taking $1 million a year and putting it in the road maintenance fund just to hold back the tide while we look for what we can do to get to the point where we can find $8 million a year, which is an enormous amount of money for us, to try and make some improvements. Just don't let it get any worse than it is. It's bad. In some areas, it's bad enough. We have to prioritize the bad areas. There's no question in my mind about that. But if we shortchange that program $1 million and $1.2 million a year, we're not going to make it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Roland Resendiz.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. My name is Roland Resendiz. I'm a community member here of Hollister. I'm here to talk to you tonight about a picnic table that was removed by the City of Hollister that was placed on the 400 block. Just before we get into that, I'll give you some background on the picnic table. About 2 or 3 months ago, a group of local artists and community organizers organized kind of like a public art interactive display on the side of the vault. The initial idea was to put like a chalkboard wall that the entire public can come and just use freely, wipe away art, and just put up whatever they want. That turned into something more. We have another artist that organized like a paint day, and he organized a bunch of people to come out from the community, and we had probably about 50 to 60 people come out just painting throughout the day. We had set up for the children. We had adults out there painting. It was a really nice event. Also, what happened was we had a local woodsman craftsman named Casey Jasmine who wanted to donate a picnic table. So he actually came up with the idea of making a custom picnic table for that area that contained a planter right in the middle of it to plant some flowers and a little area to store the chalk. What happened was, so it's been there probably about 2 or 3 months, I would say, and just recently, I think 2 Fridays ago or so, the Friday right before Easter, it was removed by the City of Hollister. Since then, a lot of people have been very upset, and they were coming to me and different organizers that set up that little area there, and they've been complaining about not having the table. I've heard stories of different students from Gavilan College using the table. I've heard stories of local teachers that walk around their special ed students and sit down and picnic on the table and use the chalkboard wall. I've heard stories of caretakers of special needs people in the community. And this is just today when I told him I was going to come here and talk about it. So I had spoke to Mr. Rivera about it, and he said that one way to resolve it was for us to come during public input and ask for the item to be agendas on the next agenda for the city council. And if we can get a vote to please, we'll donate the table to the city. That way we can put the table back to where it was at in the beginning. So I want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you at the next meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers, sir.
All right. We'll move forward to item D, 31, City Manager's Report.
Thank you. Real quick, what I will do to address Roland's situation is I will prepare something for the next agenda for your consideration. We'll set it up very similar as we did the statue that is Eric that was recently donated to the city of Hollister, and I'll let the city council make their decision then. I will say that I've been getting a lot of heat for my picture being in the paper about on the crack ceiling crew. I want to make sure that everybody knows that I actually only got to use the squeegee like one time for 5 minutes or 5 seconds, and I did it wrong, and it got taken away from me quickly and quickly sent off to McDonald's to get hamburgers. So I just happened to be there for 2 pictures, and that was it. But I do want to thank everybody that was on those crews for that week. I think ultimately the prep work in any sort of construction or finish job is much nicer if we spent some time doing that. So our slurry seal should look really, really nice when it's complete in the next couple of weeks or so downtown. So the business owners should be looking forward to getting a letter from us shortly. We're still on schedule to have the slurry sealing taking place April 14th and 15th. And then about 10 days to 2 weeks later, there will be some temporary striping that is installed, and then the permanent thermoplastic will be down in about probably 2 weeks after that. So just trying to get that word out there as quickly as possible. So, and that's it for me.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item E41, transportation impact fees.
And before you get started, David, I'd like to thank you for sending out that schedule.
You're welcome. Okay, tonight this item is we're going to be talking about the traffic impact mitigation fee. The city staff is recommending that public hearing be held, and that you take comments and testimony, and that our recommendation would be to approve the supplemental. To approve the transportation impact mitigation fee. With us tonight is Dino Serafani from Michael Baker and Associates. He's going to give us a presentation on this impact fee. He's the one most knowledgeable in the fee and will be able to answer your questions. So, Dino.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David. I'm going to touch it. Good evening, Mayor Velasquez, members of the City Council. I'm very pleased to be able to present our report and the fee recommendations for the regional transportation impact fee. This is an effort that we've been at for about a year with the COG staff and David, staff at the County of San Benito, Caltrans and AMBAG, Association Governments of Bay Area, Monterey Area, Bay Area Governments, and so we've put together this report, this program, and it's replaces or it updates a program that was adopted first in 2010. So we're about 5 to 6 years, and it's in the cycle of impact fees. The time is ripe for an update. And the purpose, the update, is to look at some additional improvements that have been added to the program, some mitigation measures that are necessary for continued development in the greater Hollister area. Also to incorporate the new a newly adopted county plan. There are some land use changes, more in terms of distribution than actual numbers. To go over some of the general principles, one thing to remember is that an impact fee program is an essential part of any CEQA process, the environmental review process for any land development in the city. It is really the most important mitigation for cumulative impacts of land development on roadways. So the fee is intended to satisfy that mitigation requirement. The fee is calculated to generate no more than the private development's actual fair share of the cost of those improvements. And the principle is that the city would rather have the improvements than the funds. If a developer were to come in to construct improvements, eligible improvements that are part of the program, they would possibly be eligible for a reimbursement of the cost to construct. I'd like to point out the major road improvements. Some of them are carryovers from the 2010 program. Union Road widening, Union Road widening west from State Route 156 to San Benito Street, Fairview Road widening, Memorial Drive extension north of about Santa Ana to Flynn Road. That is a new addition to the program, as are the following. Flynn Road extension. There is a new east-west collector that's been added between Felipe and Memorial Drive. Part of that collector actually does show up on the county's general plan circulation element. We've also added bike lanes, paths, multi-use trails, in keeping with the complete streets policies of the county. Oops. It shows, I don't think I have a pointer here, but you can see the new additions would be the project 3, 12, and 13, that dash line, that's Flynn Road, Memorial Drive extension. Those were not part of the 2010 program, and that project 14, calling it Pacific Way extension, that goes between San Felipe and that Memorial Drive North extension. That matches up with to the east of Memorial Drive extension, the county's collector that they show on their circulation element. And the big addition to this program that wasn't in 2010 is Project 11. This adds the Phase 1 and Phase 2 of SR 25. Previously, what we had was enhancements of 25 passing lanes in the vicinity of Hudner Lane. So this takes the widening to full arterial width all the way from its terminus at the flyover, the bypass, all the way to the county line. And that was a big addition to the program, $181 million. This is the cost summary. The TIMF roadways total $401 million. Of that, the TIMF share $190, leaving $211 for the city, county, regional share, or other funding sources. And the other categories, intersections, 18 signalized intersections with turning lanes, bike lanes that are broken out separately, but they would be constructed along with the roadway improvements. And bicycle paths, routes. This is all part of the master plan of bike routes for the county. Only about $2 million of those bike paths are actually included in the TIMF program. A lot of those bike paths are considered recreational use and not necessarily part of the complete streets package. They wouldn't necessarily take trips off of the roadways, so they were not included. One of the purposes of the update was to look at the current fee zones. The county is broken up into three fee zones. Zone 1 in the south, the northeast westerly corner around the Morrow area and just to north of San Juan Bautista. Zone 2 is the urbanized area of the county. And Zone 3 is primarily undeveloped and it's not scheduled for any significant development. The one change we made to the fee zones was previously San Juan Bautista was part of the Zone 2 where Hollister is, part of the urbanized area. We carved it out of Zone 2 and put it into Zone 1 in that area that wouldn't use a lot of the improvements that are planned for the rest of the county. So their impact, the development in that zone, current Zone 1 and the proposed Zone 1 would not utilize that much of those improvements. So there wouldn't be as many trips on those, so their share of the TIMP would be reduced. And we felt San Juan Bautista really fell into that category with the communities in that area that's bounded by 125. Excuse me, that's Highway 129. Just real quickly, the fee methodology. We adjusted the projections from the county general plan to look at the traffic analysis zones and do what's called a select link analysis to determine the number of trips that would be generated from each fee zone. And we use that to proportion the fees. So the cost of the improvements then is proportional to the trips generated in each of those zones. So it's notable that Area 1, Fee Zone 2, the urbanized area or the urbanizing area, generates about 98% of the trips and about 98% of the cost then is allocated to Zone 2. And really quickly wanted to go over the treatment for commercial and retail. In the 2010 study, we employed what's called the commercial trip shift. It was determined that about 50% of the retail sales in San Bernardino County are generated by local residents. And it was thought if that's the case, then they're not retail and commercial development in the county is not drawing trips from outside the county. They're mostly pass-by trips, diverted trips. These are trips that are already on the roadways. So it wouldn't be. It was felt reasonable then not to charge that to the commercial and retail development. So we employed the same methodology in this study, and the result of that is about a 50% lower fee for commercial and retail than otherwise would be the case. And again, Zone 2 is the schedule that applies to Hollister. And you can see the increase from the current fee for single family, multifamily.
Wait, we have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that per 1,000 feet?
This is per unit. Per 1,000 feet would be the commercial. That's per 1,000 feet. So these are residentials per unit.
Okay.
So looking at the non-residential, and again, you see the commercial retail, it's significantly less, the proposed fee per 1,000 than office, because that reflects the 50% commercial trips shift to residential. So what happened is that the cost for those trips gets shifted to the residential uses. And again, the biggest change, the reason for the change is the inclusion of the phase 1 and 2 on 25. That pretty much doubled the fee, doubled the cost estimate. And the other improvements also to some extent, and the bike lanes, but primarily it was that phase 1 and 2 of 25. And so other funding sources, we identified that $258 million must be provided by local government, perhaps from the state. You have the tax measure that's being considered. That would be a source. About 70% of these other funds are for roadway improvements that are to correct current deficiencies, and deficiencies cannot be passed on to new development. They have to be remedied by the current development, the current residents and businesses of the county and the city. 3% of the cost of the bike lanes associated with deficient road segments. So those deficient road segments, there would be projects to construct bike lanes for those. So those are not passed on either. And I mentioned the recreational trails are not included in the TIMF program. So again, our principle was that 100% of the proposed fees or 100% fair share cost recovery goes into the calculation of the fees in each zone and for each land use in that zone. And discounting or waiving fees for any particular class, for any sort of a policy that the council might have for low-income housing or to benefit, maintain competitiveness or benefit commercial retail uses, those revenues could not be diverted, for example, to residential. They would be foregone revenues. So they would have to be made up in some other source. So it's recommended to open the public hearing and then adopt the resolution at your discretion, and the fees would become effective 60 days after adoption. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from council? Councilmember Clower?
Without getting overly technical, how do you get your projections on what's going to be built in the next 20 years?
Well, those come from a number of sources. Primarily, the county's general plan relies on the AMBAG, of the Association Monterey Bay Area Governments, in conjunction with San Benito Council Governments, trip generation or a transportation plan, and the state provides some projections for population. So primarily, we're being consistent with the county's general plan for population and for jobs. And those are the factors. Residential pretty much follows directly related to population. Some of the other land uses, resident or retail and commercial and office and industrial, those are related to the employment factors, and employment is an exogenous factor. It's a given. You're looking at the projections that the state has for this area, coming up with numbers of workers in various industries that exist, and doing a projection based on that.
What weight's given to what's already happened or has been happening?
There is some weight, because you look at the type of development that has occurred, and the type of, for example, for non-residential, you're looking at the type of employment categories, the job categories that currently exist, and extrapolating on that. So it really does look at the past as acting as prologue and carrying those trends out to the future.
Okay, because I've been a pessimist on this portion of this study probably 2 or 3 times now when this has come around. I'm a little taken aback that the study thinks that there's going to be essentially 80% of the existing units will be built in the next 20 years for multifamily. For 140 or 50 years of this city's existence, we've built 27, well, for the greater Hollister area, 2,700 multifamily units. And in the last 20 years, there's probably been 40, maybe 100 if we're lucky. And yet we think that there's going to be 2,300 built in the next 20 years. And I don't think that there's any viable plans to do 100 units a year for the next 20 years. So I guess that's my first concern, is that that's a hole in the study, and that my first concern is there's not going to be enough multifamily housing. My second concern is that you're going to be short about $15 million by 2035 because that's not going to get built.
Well, again, you look at the purpose of the impact fee is to address impacts as they occur. So you collect money as a pay-as-you-go. The developer pays the money to mitigate the impacts. If there is no development, if we're short, if we don't achieve that level of growth over the next 20 years, then you wouldn't need the improvements. So you're part of the problem of impact fees is that you're trying to fund improvements after the fact. You're collecting money, revenues based on building permits that are issued. Those trips are going to be on the ground and in the system before you're able to fund the improvements. So there is a bit of catching up to do. So if what you're saying is true, it comes to pass, and you're not going to build that much, and you're not going to need the roads anyway. So you're not going to collect that $194 million. But then you wouldn't need that level of improvement anyway.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. I just think
Yeah,
what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah, this is kind of a worst case scenario. Is like this is, and the improvements were designed and contemplated with that in mind, looking at what's the highest level of development we could expect, and that's kind of like it protects the program. We don't want to assume too little, and you won't have the plans out there to build these roads.
Okay, but I guess as far as my opinion, as far as the public's concerned, is just because there's items on the list of projects, don't expect that they're going to be done by 2035.
Well, right, yeah, you won't generate the fee revenues for one thing, right? But there won't be the increased demand, there won't be the traffic, maybe the pressure won't be there if the development hasn't occurred.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Are there any other questions from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Mayor Gomez?
I don't have any questions, but thank you, and I just want to thank the presenter for this information. I don't know how many times the mayor and I have seen this, and
3 or 4.
3 or 4, yeah,
more than that.
But we're good with it. Having gone through this process twice already in 5 or 6 years, we're happy to see the results of this study. We were obviously, I think some of us are slightly concerned on where we could be on the residential side. Our community has gone through some significant changes, and I know our community's been asking about the impacts of new development. We have other desires on revenue sources that we're working on right now as well. But we want to make sure that we're moving forward with a fair approach, and I think this is the fair way to move forward. So I'm happy to see that we're moving forward, and I hope the council supports moving forward with these revised impact fees. So thank you, and Mary, thank you as well. I want to thank COG staff, because COG staff obviously led this effort and did an excellent job of moving this forward in a somewhat short period of time. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friend?
I want to echo those comments. Thank you for completing this report, because it's been extremely difficult to get our hands around what the city needs to do. And now we have the numbers that we know to look at, and we know where we have to, what we have to strive for. The presentation we had 2 weeks ago with respect to how we fix our streets was quite an eye-opener. This one was sorely needed so that we know what type of money we're talking about. And I think it's well done, and I think it's timely done so that we can get ahead of this, hopefully. I know the numbers are mind-boggling, but they are what they are, and we've got to have something to strive for. Now we know what we need. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, I just want to echo the comments that have been made, and I really want to thank Mary, with COG, for actually assisting
very big help,
on the study. Yes, I know she's very good at this. So thank you, Mary, as well. For actually helping to put together the study, which is very important. And I really believe that Councilman Clower had some really good statements to make, and to make us all think of, just because it's in the study doesn't necessarily mean sometimes that it's going to happen,
Right.
On a certain time and a certain date. So
Right.
thank you for the presentation.
Again, I appreciate all the work. We, as Vice Mayor Gomez pointed out, we've sat through this many times to participate in these numbers. I think it's important the public understand that what we're really trying to do here is make sure we don't fall short in the future.
Right.
And we're charging the fees that need to be charged, and I think when the public understands that fee is moving up, in some cases, over 200% on some of the housing to collect what's needed, it's very important so we don't find ourselves in difficulties in the near future. So thank you again for making the presentation and all your work to get us to this point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, this City Manager.
If I can make two quick comments, please. If in the motion and the resolution, there's two things that I'd like to correct. Actually, three things. I just want to make sure that if you're looking at the resolution, the non-residential portion, it says per. I'm not even sure what number you would call that. It's just missing a zero. So I want to make sure that we get that fixed.
Per 1,000.
Yeah, it's per 1,000 square feet. Right. And then the effective date was we are not allowed to have it become effective less than 60 days in advance. What I'm suggesting the council do is have an effective date July 1, 2016. That's our normal schedule for increasing fees, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have this fee on June 4th and have it for a month and then have it go up to the E&I the next in 26 days. So that was original request. And then also the passed and adopted date, you have 7th day of March. It should be obviously the 4th day of April. Okay? And I apologize for those. I just caught those.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a follow-up question to that, Billy,
Sure.
or staff or whoever. Do we have to apply the fees at the same time as the other jurisdictions, the other two jurisdictions?
No, because I think we all collect independently. So
yeah, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, I'll make that. Well, actually, I think we have to open it up. Yeah.
Councilmember Clower?
Are we still planning on coming back and looking at the industrial and commercial and retail?
Yes, I had we had dinner tonight, and we were talking about some of the programs that we may be able to come up with, and that is obviously that's one of my goals with looking at some of the impact fees coming up into the next couple of months, and we'll get together and look at some ideas and maybe some other formulas that we can look at to help in the commercial and industrial area. As you may have heard, 51% of the we've kind of already sort of transferred 51% of that. We may want to look at doing maybe more or some other sort of incentive type program that's related to job creation or something like that. But we'll come back as soon as possible with some maybe some alternatives or ideas.
Thank you.
Okay. This time we are going to open it to public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, sir. The first speaker is Gabriel Torres.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Gabriel Torres from Chispa. Again, we are working on the Buena Vista subdivision, East Salinas, 41-unit multifamily and 13 single-family homes. And I'm glad Billy actually made the comment about the fees not going into effect until July 1st, 2016. We have a unique situation with the Buena Vista subdivision of the 13 affordable units that we have there for market rate. We were on the agenda for LAFCO in March, and unfortunately, due to the results of the recent lawsuit regarding the tax sharing agreement, we're put in a real weird situation where we are pretty much frozen until a solution comes about for the tax sharing agreement between the city and the county. We have been advised to do a development by development agreement with the county and discussions with the city, and we're in that process now. And so we're hoping that the discussions won't take too long to get through this, but I just wanted to point out that we may be in a situation where we may be coming to staff for some type of concession. Again, it was no fault of our own that, fortunately we got caught up in this tax sharing agreement lawsuit, but and all annexations have been stopped until studies are completed. So what I'm asking is that if council and staff could possibly work with Chispa to try to come up with a solution where we could either grandfather those traffic impact fees to what they are currently. Again, that's what we had budgeted with our lenders, and if we do the numbers, it's going to be another $111,000 that we have to go back to our lenders and request if we can't get done before the July 1st. So, again, I just wanted to make that comment known to both council and to staff as well. So hopefully we can work out something in that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And Marty Richmond.
Good evening again, Marty Richmond from Hollister. It's a good report in that it's one of the best explanations and clearest layout of how impact fees, what are they for, how they're used, how they're calculated. And for many of the population here who don't understand them and keep yelling and screaming, I recommend they read the report end to end. And whether you agree with the numbers or not, that's not the issue. The issue is maybe you'll understand the program and the way it's laid out and how this is a very clear layout of what they intend to do with the money and where the money comes from. That's the first thing. The second thing is Councilman Clower stole my thunder, as he always does, to say that if we had a penalty for AMBAG missing the mark on their projections, we would be rich, okay? Because they don't even come close. Now, if you guess long enough, sooner or later you will be right, and I assure you, the day they are right, we will never hear the end of it. They will forget about the times they've been wrong. So I wouldn't count on the AMBAG projections to be anywhere near correct. However, we are stuck with them because the state has basically said, well, whatever they project, that's it. No matter how lousy they've been in the past, and they have been really unbelievably lousy on all accounts. So why it's like that, I have no idea. But obviously the state wants to deal with AMBAG. They don't want to deal with the individual places. The third thing I would like to point out is not forgetting where we actually are. As far as I can see, and I'm not in the real estate business, but just using my eyeballs, we have office space flowing out of our ears that is unoccupied or under occupied. Okay, we have industrial office space over at the Technology Parkway that is occupied by churches, that is occupied by government agencies, that's occupied by almost everything except commercial office space. Okay, and we have downtown, we have a lot of commercial space available, and we have more built to suit and to let signs than we have anything else. So I don't think a lot of people are going to be building offices down here, and I can't imagine why they would even want to when there's so many places to rent that are just sitting there available. The commercial shift of 51% seems perfectly reasonable to me, because it's true that much of our commercial, if we get it here, if it's new commercial that services our population, will actually reduce the amount of trips on the road. I have to agree with the city manager, rather than increase them. 51% seems reasonable, but in the end, you have a lot of flexibility you can do with other monies. In other words, you can take the traffic impact fees, and you can make concessions on things like sales taxes, your portion of the sales taxes, because 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
There are no more comments.
Okay, at this time, we'll close public hearing.
I think Marty's asking for the reappointment of Councilmember Clower to AMBAG. I think that's what he would.
Any other questions or comments from council? I'm the one stuck going there. Any other questions or comments from members of the council?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2016-46
with the changes.
With the changes that Billy mentioned.
Second.
Is it 46 or 40?
40.
What?
40.
40, yes. Okay, 40.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion carries. 5-0 vote.
I'd like to also make a recommendation that we approve. Well, it says the same number, Resolution 2016.
No, that's the same one.
I thought there was two resolutions.
All right, we'll move forward to item E42. Do we have any more students in the audience that want to be excused, or did they all sneak out already? They're all gone. We'll move to item E42.
This is going to be a long one. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Why don't we're going to go and take a 5-minute break.
It's going to be a long one.
To item E42.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good evening. The applicant is requesting the City Council to consider a proposal to pre-zone a 7.25 acre site as a prerequisite for annexation of the site to the City of Hollister. No development is being considered tonight. As Gabriel mentioned just a little while ago, staff understands that a property tax exchange agreement will first need to be made between the city and the county prior to annexation, or between the applicant and the city and the county. However, the pre-zoning of the property and adoption of the CEQA document can be considered and adopted if it is the desire of the council. Pending approval of the pre-zone, staff will hold on submitting to LAFCO for annexation until a property tax exchange agreement is made between the city and the county and the applicant. The site, as you can see on the screen, is located south of Valley Way, west of Powell Street, north of 8th Street, and east of Oro Hardin Elementary School. San Benito County LAFCO Policy 2.2.18 prohibits the creation of unincorporated islands. For this reason, the Planning Commission, at its regular meeting of February 25th, also recommended the addition of 4 contiguous unincorporated parcels to the pre-zoning request and the low-density residential performance overlay zoning district to avoid the creation of an unincorporated island and to avoid conflict with San Benito County LAFCO Policy 2.2.18. These lots are included in Exhibit A of the attached ordinance. They're located just to the east. The next slide shows they're kind of on the dash line next to the 7.26 acre parcel. The properties are infill, completely surrounded by the City of Hollister, and would be pre-zoned low-density residential performance overlay zoning district, consistent with the Hollister General Plan for low-density residential.
The City Council authorized the initiation of this pre-zone application because all services were in the vicinity of the project site, including sewer, water, and storm drain mains. A mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the zoning project in accordance with California Environmental Quality Act and circulated for 30 days public review period that started in December 28th of 2015 to January 28th of 2016. On February 25th of 2016, the Planning Commission approved resolution number 2016-13 and 2016-14, recommending to the City Council approval for a mitigated negative declaration and the approval of this pre-zone. With this, staff recommends that the City Council holds a public hearing, approves resolution number 2016-45, adopting the mitigated negative declaration for pre-zone 2014-6, and approving the mitigated monitoring and reporting program. Read by title, waive full reading, and introduce ordinance number 11-29, an ordinance of the City of Hollister, and amend Title 17.24-250 of the zoning code of Hollister Municipal Code to pre-zone the property, and schedule a second reading and adopting of the ordinance for the April 18th, 2016 council meeting. Is there any questions?
Are there any questions from council? Councilmember Friend?
I do have a question. What is with that strip of land between the homes on Valley Way and the end of that process? Is that separate?
Yeah, it's
owned by separate people, or is it?
It's actually owned by the property owner. That's actually within the City of Hollister already, though.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's vacant.
Because I know somebody that bought one of the houses on Valley Way, and then there's no separation there. Their fence is the fence line, so. Okay, so that's already part of the city then?
That's already part of the city, yeah.
Comments? Any other questions, council? Do we have any speaker cards?
Are you opening the public hearing, Mr. Mayor?
I forgot it's a public hearing. Just point to open for public hearing. Do we have speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay.
I will get one. Excuse me.
No problem.
I have a question I'll take from the right there. I'd like to ask the staff through the council and through the mayor, if this remains low density, approximately how many units would fit on this property? I understand we don't have a preliminary layout. I'm just asking for an estimate. I'm not asking for a number, and just based on what the low density, how many square feet the lots are, and so on and so forth. Do we have any idea? Because this is a very high density area this is going into, and I just want to see what an increase in population. I assume it would be low, because if this is low density, it would be a low increase. I just want to get some idea because of the R.O. Hardin issues with the school overcrowding, and it's just enormous school impacts there. So I just want to know from my personal view. I don't have any objection to whatever the number is. Thank you. If we know it.
That's the end of, there's another, okay, this time I'll close public hearing. You can answer.
Can you give us an answer to that?
Absolutely. The low-density residential allows up to 8 dwelling units per acre, so the maximum capacity would be at around 56, a little bit over 56, but the zoning requires that the average would be at 4 to 6 or so. So if it's 4, we're looking at about 29 to 29 units or so. When the roads come in and yeah, net acres, yeah.
Are there any other questions from council? I guess I'm going to repeat what I've said many times. Until we get something worked out, we shouldn't be talking about any of these projects. I understand it won't affect what's happening with the property sharing. But I think at this point we need to be holding off until we get a solid answer. Quite frankly, I think it's time we have another discussion about some density in some of these areas. Where we're going to reach the goal of some multifamily, we're going to have to rethink how we're doing some of these. All right. Is there Vice Mayor Gomez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, thank you, staff, for this presentation. I'm not sure. I'm not even clear on what the direction we gave staff during a discussion we had. I missed the last meeting. I apologize. But I know we had discussions on this tax sharing agreement. We also had a discussion on looking at least tentatively considering looking at those projects that were in the queue to consider individual tax sharing agreements. Billy, can you clarify what the direction of the council was for that discussion?
I got in trouble the last time I tried to figure this out, so I'm a little gun shy right now.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
don't mean to put you on the spot again.
I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth. I think part of the discussion was, I believe I heard that the council would be considering individual tax sharing agreements. I think I also heard that the mayor, and I believe that at least some members of the council felt that it was important to at least have the report done from BAE to sort of have a jumping off or a starting point. But, and again, I'll probably just leave it at that. We know that the BAE stuff is underway. Brad and I have not yet met with the county on sort of what the scope of work and what BAE is actually looking at. I think they're looking at all the services right now, and I know that's one of the concerns that Brad has, is he wants to make sure that we sort of have our sort of skin in the game the whole way along, so that we feel that the report identifies both the county's needs and the city's needs. So,
and what's the projected timeline on that?
No, we've been trying to meet with them before they got started too much, because they started before the lawsuit ended, when it was going to be a mitigation fee. And I asked them for a timeout, but that was not communicated to them, so that we could meet with them and kind of reassess in light of the decision, so that we could address the court's concerns.
Okay, so are we anticipating having a meeting, or are we just kind of hitting a wall?
We were told last week that it would be this week.
Okay. Well, I think, and I'm glad that was kind of the general direction. I'm fine with that. But, in this case, I mean, at least specifically, we're looking at an infill project here. I mean, these are the kinds of projects that we need to move forward. We want to talk about, if you want to have discussions on the sphere of influence and those projects around the actual incorporated, unincorporated areas of the city, that's fine. But when you're talking about projects that some of these folks have been working on for years, we're talking about infill projects, these are the kinds of projects that, though we may not be there yet, these are the kind that we need to have conversations on. Those are just my thoughts. That's my comment.
Councilmember Clower.
So for clarification, we don't need a tax sharing agreement to move this forward.
To pre-zone? No, sir.
Okay, then
To finish it, yes.
My personal opinion is that we let people move along as far as they can until they get to a point where they can't move along anymore. Because I think it's a shame that people are getting stopped anyways. So I'm not going to stop anybody before they get to that roadblock that's been put in place by higher powers than us.
Councilmember Friend.
Yeah, I agree that we should at least allow these to move on to the point where we're at the tax sharing agreement point. But these are the infill projects that we need to move along on. I mean, like Victor said, about the ones that are out on the sphere of influence and need to be brought into the city later, that's one thing. But these, we should be allowing these to move along. And if we can do an individual tax sharing deal just for this project, then I think these are important to do because they're already within the city sphere. They're already in the city, in fact. I'm surprised that this is still one of those pockets that's still there. But I think we should move on as far as this pre-zoning anyhow.
Okay. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, I think we've already had this discussion before regarding taking it to a certain point where we can't move, go any further. And when you look at the area there, it's if you go by there, you can see the empty space that is a void among an established community already. And to me, it's a key neighborhood because it's right next to a school. And the school now is first to or kinder to 8th grade.
Yeah.
So it's a prime area for families. So I just want to comment on that and also thank the staff, the planning staff, and congratulations, Maria. I remember when she came on board the city, but thank you for your time with the city.
Okay. Any more?
I would like to offer for clarification, if you look at page 17 of your agenda, it recaps the discussion about this item at the last special meeting.
From the minutes?
Yes, sir. It's page 17 of 770.
For our nighttime reading?
Yeah. Motion to approve Resolution 2016-45.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank
We'll
you.
move forward to item F51. Is this for a public hearing?
You did. You brought it back to the council.
We did the public hearing already? F51.
No.
I think it's our first public.
Yes, this is our first public hearing. We did bring it back before in December for the draft to submit to HCD, but this is the
Okay.
final draft.
Just lay it out there
This
for
is
me.
after their comments.
Okay.
This is after their comments, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good evening. Under provisions of Article 10.6 of the Government Code, the City of Hollister is required to periodically update the general plan housing element and forward a draft revision to the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. And this is for review and comment prior to adoption. On December 21st, 2015, the City Council adopted Resolution number 2015-234, directing staff to submit the draft 2015-2023 housing element to HCD for review and comment. Submittal to HCD initiated an 8-week review and comment period from HCD. Within these 8 weeks, the draft housing element document was available to the public for review and comment. HCD's review of the draft housing element was facilitated by telephone conversations with staff on February 3rd, February 18th, and the 24th. Then the City of Hollister received written findings from HCD on a letter dated February 24, 2016, and that letter is on Exhibit D and in your packet. And the letter from HCD indicates that the draft element with revisions meets the statutory requirements of state housing element law, and the element will comply with state housing law once adopted and submitted to HCD, once adopted by the City Council and submitted to HCD. So this is why we're here today. The original revisions to the housing elements are indicated on the draft housing element report that you all have on yellow highlight. Then the second revisions are indicated in green highlight, and the third and final revisions are made in blue highlight, and that's throughout the housing element that you all received. Adoption of the attached resolutions approving the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration and general plan amendment number 2016-1 will adopt the 2015-2023 housing element as required by HCD. A summary of the topics covered within the housing element includes, as you see on the screen, sites inventory analysis, an analysis of government and non-governmental constraints, housing needs assessment, including special needs groups, units at risk of conversion to market rate, general plan consistency, review of the previous housing element, and programs including goals and policies for this current housing element that we are looking for adoption. At the council meeting of December 21st, 2015, if you recall, staff presented a summary of the entire housing element and included and addressed all of these points before you. The council approved the resolution, recommending submittal to the draft housing element to HCD, and HCD reviewed and accepted the information provided. We won't present the entire document again today. However, we do want to emphasize on the RENA numbers and the attempt or the housing policy that after reviewing with City Council and the Planning Commission, what we have as housing policy for recommendation for this housing element that we would want to work for these next years. So for the period of 2014 to 2023, the City of Hollister has been given an allocation need of 1,316 new housing units by HCD. The specific need by income group is depicted in the table shown on the screen in front of you. The units allocated by HCD for extremely low is 156 for very low, 156 for low, 189 for moderate, 258, above moderate, 557, for a total of 1,356, as you can see there. The City of Hollister has various infill sites and other sites that have been annexed into the City of Hollister that can accommodate the needs that are projected from HCD. And just with the units constructed and the units under construction since January 2014 and the units approved, the city has already met the needs for above moderate and for moderate. However, as discussed in previous Planning Commission public hearings and as discussed in previous City Council meetings, the issue is not necessarily providing sites, but rather building for extremely low, very low, and low income housing. So just to summarize and to finish, we're just going to provide a list of the goals and policies and programs to address the need for low, very low, and extremely low housing. All the other goals and policies are in the binder for all the other aspects of the housing, but just for tonight, we're gonna emphasize on the need for meeting the goals for low, extremely low, and very low. For example, housing policy H.1, local government leadership. Establish affordable housing as a citywide priority with local government taking a proactive leadership role in working with community groups and other agencies such as CHISPA, Gabriel Torres, and CSDC locally. Housing policy 4.2, protection of existing affordable housing. Ensure that affordable housing provided through government subsidy programs, incentives, and deed restrictions will remain affordable and intervene when necessary to help preserve such housing. Housing Policy 4.4, establish options for meeting future inclusionary requirements. The city will determine the standards by which additional density will be allowed when projects provide a defined percentage of units affordable to low and moderate income households. So basically exploring the possibility of providing of a density bonus for those projects that are going to be providing affordable housing.
Housing Policy 4.5, leveraging of public funds. The city shall encourage private investments in affordable housing by continuing to leverage public funds where possible. Housing Policy 4.6 from here on H. Long-term housing affordability. Implement long-term or in perpetuity agreements and or deed restrictions with developers to govern the affordability in such units. H.49, city actions to achieve affordable housing goals. That's to utilize the unique powers of the city's successor agency and other means to assist in achieving the city's housing goals, especially housing for lower income households. H.L, to prepare expedited development review process for affordable housing development. And that is, affordable housing development shall receive the highest priority. Staff shall consider project funding and timing needs in the processing and review of the application. H.U, the City of Hollister will assess the need to adopt an inclusionary housing ordinance. H.S is to protect at-risk units. The city's successor agency will pursue state and federal funding sources, such as the HOME program, to keep units affordable. The city's successor agency will also continually engage property owners to take advantage of the deferred loan programs. And that is for rehabilitation, mortgage refinancing, and acquisition to keep this affordable long-term, typically 55 years. Identify sites for multifamily and the use of development of affordable and special need housing where opportunities are available that will not dramatically change the neighborhood characteristics of an area. H.LN is to continue to implement the City of Hollister successor agency's sponsored resale regulations for very low, moderate income units to ensure that these units remain at an affordable price level. H.3.8, second units, to encourage additional well-designated second units as a desired use in all residential neighborhoods throughout the city by simplifying permit review and encouraging that the new subdividers over 10 units a portion of lots construct a second dwelling. The next steps are to hold a public hearing on the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration in General Plan Amendment number 2016-1. Close a public hearing and review and consider the public comments as well as the information contained for General Amendment number 2016-1. Approve the resolutions adopting the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration, as presented in the Exhibit E, and approve the General Plan Amendment number 2016-1, which adopts the 2015-2023 housing element. Staff will submit a final updating housing element to HCD. That's it.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions from council? Councilmember Clark?
Not really a question. I think you guys have done a great job on this, and I'm excited to kind of see where we go from here and actually implementing some things to address these issues. It'll be interesting to see what we can do in terms of gaining some mixed density in some of the neighborhoods that are coming forward with secondary units, or maybe it's duets or smaller lots and regular size lots, so that you kind of maintain a continuity of the neighborhood, but you allow for people who have different incomes to live in the same neighborhood. So that's what I'm excited to see in the next, I guess, 2-3 years, but it's going to take a bit, but I think we have the staff to help pull it off.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? This time I'll open it for public hearing.
Marty Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Marty Rich from Hollister. I can't overemphasize the portion that was covered by the staff about maintaining the current units. If you lose those to poor maintenance or because they're allowed to go to heck, can we say hell here? Allowed to go to hell? Then you're losing a unit that's really hard to replace. So I've encouraged, I've been here before and encouraged those running our affordable units to make sure that they do the proper amount of maintenance. Unfortunately, that doesn't get done often. And then you lose a unit because you have a problem with it. It leaks water or something, and then it's murder trying to get it replaced. As far as building new units, look, there's a financial disconnect. It's obvious to everybody. No one's really addressing it. We just passed a resolution that's going to get you $13,000 and change for every unit you build, or $8,000 for every multifamily unit. And here we say we're going to do second units. I have a neighbor who, without going into any names, who built the second unit behind his home, and just the permitting fees were $28,000. Come on, folks. Nobody's going to do it for these prices. You can't do it. It's ridiculous to say, let's build affordable units when everybody along the line asks for unaffordable contributions for impact fees, unaffordable contributions for environmental reports, unaffordable contributions for everything, including the Melrose taxes. Everything's unaffordable, but then we want to build somehow an affordable unit to go into the unaffordable picture. It doesn't work, okay? So we're going to have to look for some new solutions, and I've been looking over the nation to see some, and I've seen some ideas in other communities. Not California, because we don't do any new ideas. We only do ideas that don't work, okay? So for instance, I saw on in North Carolina, they're building a lot of units called next-gen units. They have a separate unit right in the house. Rather than building a separate unit, you got it right in the house. So essentially, you don't wind up with all the enormous impact fees, because the impact fees that are, you don't add that many square feet, okay? You don't add another sewer connection. It's just right in the house. And you can have your elderly parent there. So it's called, or you can have your kids who can't find a place to live there, and they have a separate entrance door and so on and so forth. And if you build it in North Carolina, by the way, you can buy one of those for $339,000. And if you took that same builder and made it slightly bigger and you moved it to Sacramento, the same builder is a nationwide builder, it only costs $689,000 in Sacramento, outside of Sacramento, toward Folsom, not even in Sacramento. So that exactly explains what the problem is. I don't have a solution, but I'm glad you've looked into maintaining the current units. I think that's critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No more speakers.
No more
sir.
speakers. At this time, we'll close public hearing. Is there a motion from? Any questions or comments, or is there a motion from the council?
Motion to adopt resolution 2016-44?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could take 1 second and just comment, I don't know if anybody really understands the magnitude of what just happened right here. A housing element is a pretty big deal for most communities. I want to make sure that I thank personally Abraham and Jill and Maria for putting their time, and Mary and probably everybody else over there that helped put this thing together. So thank you to them. These usually don't get done in-house. People usually contract this stuff out, and I just want to let everybody know that we did it in-house, and they did a pretty darn good job. So.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
There's only 3 people for those at home.
But Abraham, Jill, and Maria were up.
Abraham is clapping like nobody's business.
Background. We'll move forward to item G61, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Governance Committee on Wednesday the 23rd. It was interesting, very interesting in the agenda. An update on the West Hills treatment plant. Eventually, they will have the opportunity to go up there, and depending on the work that they've already completed, then it'll be safe enough to have the city council go up. Also, they gave us an update on the master plan. Very interesting. It was a short meeting, but interesting. I also attended the Gang Prevention Policy Committee meeting on Wednesday, March 30th. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum. But we did, it was a good report on the LECAP report and the Junior Giants report. And Chief Westbrook was there, so thank you for being there. We had a couple of people in the audience, so that's my report on my committees.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friend?
No, I have no reports.
Vice Mayor Gomez?
And nothing to report.
Councilmember Clower?
I attended the governance committee meeting with Councilmember Luna, and she covered it.
Okay. I have no committee reports. Let's move to item G62, informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, first and foremost, I want to thank you for coming out to the West Side Community Meeting. Very interesting. Many comments made. That was on Tuesday, the 22nd. Planning staff was there. Mayor attended, city manager. And I believe that we will continue to have those meetings. And actually, I proposed a community advisory type of committee from the West Side, which actually proved it was very interesting for a lot of members that were in the audience and immediately signed up. So I think we're going to move on that very quickly. I attended an educational program on Tuesday the 29th with Crystal Lamanto, Superintendent of Schools. Very interesting on a lot of educational programs that are actually going on in the different schools and how much she would like those programs to, encourage students to come to our meetings to learn more about the political process in San Benito County. I attended the Cesar Chavez Student Walkathon on Wednesday the 30th. It was, to me, it was very motivational to see 3 blocks of walkers and students and children and families and the elders of our community, including a gentleman that actually was part of the United Farm Workers with Cesar when he was here. He was in a wheelchair, but he was taken to the walkathon and enjoyed it very much. I do want to say special thanks to Officers Carlos Rodriguez and Juan Guevara for their assistance in actually escorting the walkers across some of the streets that really the traffic had to be stopped. The only concern I had was that we had like over 100 people at Dunn Park, and the restrooms were closed. I did mention this to the city manager. I had no idea why they were closed, but there was a concern when you have a group of people there. So that was my report.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, I have a couple items. We had a meeting with the downtown merchants and the HDA on the farmers market, and a lot of ideas were thrown out and a lot of solutions were thrown out, and we're expecting a report from the HDA soon on what they're going to do about the complaints and the suggestions. And then on the 29th of March, we had a 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam conflict, and it was well attended by a couple hundred people from all over the area, not just Hollister. And the chief did a very good job of representing the city and giving us a little speech. Thank you, Chief. And that's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Gomez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick reminder that Walk a Mile in Her Shoes is this weekend for those that are Saturday, for those that are able to attend. I will be there, and I hope to be walking as well. So for all those folks that could be there, we'd love to see you out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Clower?
I get these crazy ideas, and while we
Always
were
good to preface it.
Yeah, while we were giving out the longevity awards, I thought maybe it'd be cool to have like some merit-based awards, like employee of the quarter for each department or something, because I think there's something to be said for working for a long time, but I think there's something more to be said for being effective. And maybe there's a reason why that doesn't exist already, and somebody will let me know after the after the meeting.
The record.
Yeah, just another crazy idea.
I'll let you know after the meeting. No, we have a lot of great people, and that would be a great idea. I've been out of town. Got to spend some time with my family, which is a great thing. Unfortunately, I can't walk my hills with you this year. My son's birthday is on that day, and we're going to be celebrating his birthday. My boy's growing really quick. I would like to see if we can invite the superintendent of Hollister Elementary Schools or the Hollister School District to come give us a presentation. I spoke with him a few weeks ago, and he'd be happy to come out and tell us where the schools are at as far as population, different needs within the community.
I'm sorry, did you Gary or John?
Gary McIntyre, Hollister, yeah. And also in the future, after that, a joint meeting with the board members of the trustees. Okay, excellent, great. Thank you. City manager?
I have nothing to report.
City attorney?
Nothing to report.
Chief?
Nothing to report.
Nice hat, Chief.
City clerk?
Oh, I'm not going to break the...
Yeah, go break that up.
Okay, I have something to report. The Dodgers won 15-0. Kershaw, one hitter.
Okay.
That's their first game.
We'll move forward to G63. Airport update, runway update.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I've been asked to provide you with an update of the phase 2 of the runway reconstruction project. Next slide. Just a short reminder, that is why we are doing this. As you can see, those black lines on there, those were cracks that we filled back in 2007. Those cracks averaged between 2 inches and 6 inches across, and we filled 18 miles of them in our 1 mile little section of runway there. So that's why we're where we are today. Next slide. Just a summary. Back in February of 2007, Caltrans, Department of Aviation, notified the city about the cracks. They actually placed what's called a NOTAM out on the airport, warning pilots about the cracks, which saw a decrease in the number of planes coming to our airport. Those cracks have been responsible for tearing a tail wheel off an aircraft. We had to pay for that. And they were just nasty. In August of 2008, right after I got there, we did a slurry seal project where we filled those cracks and slurry sealed the airport to buy time. In between then and October of 2013, we went through a stormwater master plan, which was the first step of this project. Then we went through the environmental phase for this project. Then we did a $3.5 million stormwater improvement plan. So once the stormwater was all addressed, which was causing all those cracks, then the FAA said, okay, we'll give you the money to go ahead and fix the runway. On October 7th of 2013, the City Council approved a project for the design and the engineering of this project. In August 8th of 2014, you approved phase 1 of the reconstruction project, which we completed last year. On May 15th of 2015, the construction safety plan was submitted to the FAA for phase 2, which included the 18-day runway closure, which began this morning at 3 a.m. On May 19th of 2015, the FAA approved the construction safety plan with that 18-day closure. On October 19th, 2015, the City Council approved phase 2 of the reconstruction project with the 18-day closure that we began today. And today we closed the airport. We removed pavement from the 624 intersection to a depth of approximately 8 inches. There was 8 inches of asphalt in the intersection. All that has been removed as of today, and they've begun excavating down. They're removing another 18 inches of soil on top of that 8 inches, which creates about a 2-foot hole. At which point, that's going to happen over the next 2 days. Then we have these big, no way other to describe them, but giant rototillers. And they're coming in, and they're going to do what's called lime treatment of the soil. So basically, they're going to go out there and put about 6 inches of lime on top of the dirt, and then these big industrial rototillers are going to work that lime into the soil to a depth of 3 feet. At which point, they're going to compact that soil to, I believe it's 92% compaction on the soil. Once that is done, it has to cure for 7 days. And what that does, it's going to go from 92% up to 100%. It basically sets up like concrete because our soil is all clay. At that point, there will be several days of hauling in rock. We will be bringing in 18 inches of what's P209 base, which is a very chunky, huge rock. Each rock's about the size of my hand here. And that's all compacted to 100% compaction, at which point then we begin paving, and we are paving with a material called super pave, which is really a tricky material, but it's going to last a very long time. The paving out there is scheduled to last about 2 weeks. On the 22nd, the paving will be done in the intersection, and we can reopen the short runway, which is 624. And by May 1st, we should have, at a minimum, 3-1 open from 24 north so we can get CAL FIRE in here. But there is a high likelihood that we may have the entire runway by May 1st because they are ahead of schedule. Next slide. So this is what's called a pavement profile, and this is the design. So if you look on the foreside, you'll see that yellow section. And what that yellow section is currently is some base rock and 4 inches of asphalt. All that was removed today. And then if you look on the after side, on the other side, you'll see those 3 layers at the absolute bottom. That's going to be the lime treatment layers. They get compacted in 3 6-inch layers to 100% compaction, and then they cure. The green section is the rock that we're bringing in, and then the black section represents the new 5 inches of asphalt that's going on top. Next slide. So currently, as it stands, everything you see up there in color there is work occurring on that part of the airport. The white areas, the pavement has been removed and constitutes, basically it represents a hole in the ground, a minimum of 5 inches deep, but in several of the locations like the intersection, it's up to 2 feet deep. The green areas, the pavement has been removed, but we're not having to dig down quite as far. They get what's called conform grinding, and that's so we can tie into the existing pavement. That pavement will be built up as we go along. The yellow or orange section, we will be removing 2-inch strips of pavement on every crack to go back and repair all those cracks. So that is going to be a patchwork quilt of holes for the next week. And then the blue section is the area that our staff's handling, and we are going to repaint all the markings in those areas so that when the airport reopens, it's new markings throughout the entire airport. And we're also going to perform crack sealing on that asphalt. Caltrans actually was out for our annual inspection last week and ordered us to do that. So staff just got experience out on San Benito Street, so we're going to take advantage of that and take care of that in-house. So that's where we're at. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Any questions from Council? Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, I just had a question. So what happens should Caltrans, where do they go if they have emergency? They have to get out.
The airport's closed, so they can divert to Christensen Field, or they can go up to Fraser Lake, or go up to South County. But our airport is closed until the 22nd. There's no runway left for them to operate on. It's all on the ground.
Okay.
Councilmember Clower?
Yeah, when we read these in the giant packets that we read, it seems okay. Yeah, let's do that. But it seems pretty awesome when you put it in pictures and you kind of outline everything. So nice work with that. What does the lime do?
The lime reacts with the water in the soil and the clay, and it effectively turns the dirt as hard as concrete. So if you think about it, now we have 3 feet of concrete, simulated concrete, with 18 inches of rock, with 5 inches of asphalt supporting the weight of the planes. So it should reduce the amount of flexing of the asphalt, which is what breaks it up over time.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the mayor should allow me to take them up flying that day as we open up the new road runway. Just a thought. And then he could jump.
With a parachute packed by you, no doubt.
If you just take a picture of the project from my airport commission meeting, that's all I ask.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll move forward now to item G64, the Junior Giants report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. Al DeVos, Gang Prevention Coordinator. And I'm here with good news, but I'm here with some bad news too. And the bad news is that, the success we had with the Junior Giants, it showed that there's a huge demand in town for recreational sports programs for kids that need to do it. So that's something we have to work together as a group. And I want to thank the city council and Chief Westrick and the board of directors for PAL for really working together, starting a municipal nonprofit partnership so we could bring the Junior Giants here at the level we did last year. Board of directors for PAL, that's Mike Sanchez is the president, Chief Westrick's the vice president, Dr. McIntyre's there with the school district. We got Chief of Probation Baran, Tina Garza from the rec department, Mandy Guerrero, and Officer Mike Patty's on there, as well as Captain LaMonica and myself. So what we have, it's also grant season. So, I was kind of looking for some data around some outcomes that we had on things, and I remembered that the Giants had done a project. And I kind of inquired around, and I got a link to a study. And what we have here is something that's really fantastic, because it's not too many programs where there's an outside entity that not only is putting together a really quality program, not just about sports and recreation, but about helping youth grow and build life skills, but they actually paid Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to do a study on not just the whole Junior Giants program, but a study on our program specifically. What's not on this first slide is they had it's really part of a continuous quality improvement model they have. So they gave us some suggestions for the future. There wasn't a baseline year because this is baseline, but their suggestion is keep continuing to communicate effectively with all of your players and parents. So we did a good job. We scored in the highest ranking of that with other leagues. They're doing successful. They recommend we keep continuing to support our coaches, team parents, helping them out with what they need, and also to maintain a commitment to excellence. So, considering we started thinking that we'd have 250 participants and suddenly it jumped up to 350, we ended up the season with almost 400 participants that completed. And so, of all of those participants, we had 100% of them parents that did the player survey. So we had 396 participants. We had 396 parent surveys. So that's a sign that they're really engaged in this program, interested in it, and they're taking the time to give us feedback on it. The Giants actually had the 30-minute interviews with 54 players, and so they asked them questions, and they also did coach surveys on 98 coaches. So we're not going to go into the full report here, but I just like to pick out a few highlights from this because, really good things happened here. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide there, Mr. Grave, appreciate that. Their league and what they work on is they call it the 4 bases of character development. The Dodgers don't have this in any of their programs, but that's just one more reason the Giants are superior. Okay.
You had me until there.
He's going to take you on an airplane ride.
So, yeah, there you go.
Al, you're next.
So, and I just have to thank Chief Westrick for showing up with the Giants hat. I don't see anybody else that's wearing their support for for the Giants like that. But okay, so these are 4 bases of character development, and to me, they're important in the realm of gang prevention and helping youth grow because confidence is important. So is integrity, leadership, and teamwork is a huge thing. That's helping youth to be part of something bigger themselves, being part of the community, and thinking about others. When we look at things in crime and prevention, antisocial attitudes those are negative things. And so teamwork and building that towards it, that's something that really is positive for us. Can you hit the next slide there, please? So of the surveys, the parents, they were asked what changes they saw in their students around these 4 bases. So they thought that they saw, or 92% saw an increase in confidence. We saw increases in integrity, leadership, and the big one for me again is that teamwork one, 94% improvement there. The coaches who are out there with the kids, most of them on a daily basis when they're training with them, they saw a large increase in confidence and like huge increase in teamwork. That's almost every participant on their team had an increase in teamwork. So to me, that's awesome. It doesn't happen without having the right pieces in place, the right training, right scheduling, all these different things there. Next slide, please. So another area of interest in the world of gang prevention and crime prevention and school safety is really just working on reducing pro-violent attitudes in the community. And they have one whole week. It's all about stopping violence, stopping bullying. There's role playing for the kids so they learn how to handle situations, learn how to stand up for others, know what to do if they see something happening to other people. And you can see, they also even have a competition where the kids get to either do an art project or a song or a dance. And one of our players got 3rd place overall across all the Junior Giants leagues for their participation in this. So again, in this area, bless you. We see, especially from the coaches and parents' perspectives, we see a large increase. Participants feel like they have more of these ability after the league than others. Next slide. So the other area that I think is really important and is education. And what we found out here, when you look at where our participants came from, what schools they go to, a lot of them go to like the R.O. Hardin and Calavera schools where kids typically will have a big drop in the summer. Kids that don't read in the summer or don't have the opportunity to go on long vacations and visit museums or things with their parents or family, they experience a drop. But what happened with this program, it's the Read Around Bases program. They're encouraged to either read or be read to, depending upon their age. And we had a huge success rate on that. Partnership with the library, the Friends of the Library, kids reporting they're reading more, parents report they're reading more, and we'd like to think that over time we're helping some of these kids not only develop a passion for reading, but go back to school so they're not losing, half a year's education over the summer, so they could come back and their brain's still engaged and they're going. So to me, that's a very, very, very positive outcome in that area. So they gave a couple parent comments that they wanted to highlight. We think we have probably about 100 we have parent comments from quite a few parents and coaches. Some of them are just amazing, right? Some of the comments, there's people that are saying that, hey, my child has mild autism disorder, and as a result of this program, suddenly they're engaging more with people. There's parents that are saying, hey, my child's been kind of shy, not willing to go out, not willing to meet people. As a result of this program now, they have friends, they're going out playing more, they're doing things. So, this is one example of a really good parent comment. But they're not all positive. There's some that are also, critical or that they didn't think that things went right. So if we have the next slide there. So this parent, they thank it. Was the other one the one that they had a? That's a good one. Yeah, this is a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So they see people cheering and baseball and teamwork. So,
taking steroids like Bobby Bonds.
Yeah, not
Barely
that.
Bonds.
Fortunately, yeah, like those Dodgers that haven't been caught yet. Mm-hmm. So,
Still Puigs now.
Can we see the other one, the negative one?
Oh, was that the first? Was that the one that we just had there? I think it's the first one. I probably juxtaposed the two. I didn't read it. I was just the one. Let's go.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I can read. I've got it highlighted in here.
It was the previous.
Yeah, so this one here is the negative one. Some children weren't able to get the skills to improve and build their confidence. Some appeared to be lost when playing games, and most of the kids in the team didn't know each other's names. So in this case, there was something that was going wrong on that team. It could have been, around our support that we were giving the coaches and them. So that's something that we can work better on as a league to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? But for most of them, the predominant response was very high. So even though they didn't see some of the things that they would like to see in it, they still appreciated having the opportunity to participate in it. So, yeah, I'd go with Bill. That's a negative thing, but it's something that we can fix. And so this year there'll be another study, and we'll be a little bit earlier on top of that at getting that information out, because to me, this is something that we need to be just kind of highlighting and promoting and recognizing the impact that it has on the community. My area that I really like about this is that we had 98 volunteers for coaching and team parents, and there were probably about 3/4 of them that had never, ever, ever volunteered or stepped up and done something like this. So it's really a lot about trying to build that network in the community. And people afterwards were saying, hey, you know what, I was kind of afraid. I volunteered to be a team mom, but next year I'd like to be a coach. So people are getting a little confidence and wanting to take more of a responsible role. So that, in the big picture, is something good as well. So I believe that concludes what I have. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions from council?
I don't have questions. I have comments.
Sure.
All joking aside.
Yeah.
I think this is obviously this is wonderful. We definitely want to see this to continue in the community. And you're right. I mean, I wanted to put emphasis on your last point. Obviously this is great for the kids. Obviously has a great impact, and prevention is obviously something we want to see. Obviously suppression and so on is important from those that are already active in the gang community. But these prevention efforts are amazing. So I want to thank you, Al, and obviously Chief, for your leadership on this. It's key to have programs like this in the community. So on your last point, I spent half a dozen years coaching for Hollister Rec. And trust me, I think I walked away from those years coaching volleyball, soccer, and something else. I don't remember what it was. I walked away learning more myself than I think maybe my children did. There's a lot of patience you have to have as a coach, especially patience toward other parents that are quite vocal. So, I think this overall, you take away. There's so many things that are taken away, but overall, at the end of the day, it's the community building that's so essential. And I think this program definitely emphasizes that, not necessarily directly, but that is a result of it, and that's pretty amazing. So thank you both, obviously, for the work that you did on this program. This is great. I heard it all over the place. Obviously, I get exhausted hearing the name of the Giants over and over and over. but I live in Northern California, so that's it is what it is. But it's just a really, really great quality program that you all worked on, and I can't praise you enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Luna?
Yeah, Al, I know that we discussed this during the Gang Prevention Committee meeting, and there was so many positive comments made at the time. How many sign-ups do you have so far?
I'm not sure where we are now.
This is the year 2015. It had what?
That was for last season.
396?
So we're just starting sign-ups now. We kind of have learned from the past, and so we were trying to do an online registration for our coaches and volunteers. So instead of having to fill out 5 pieces of paper with your name, address, and phone number, they just enter it online once, and it's just and then they check off that they've read and they understand our concussion policies and abuse policies. So it gives us better management of the risk side of it, but also makes it easier for them. So,
and it's something that children in this community will never forget. My 2 sons went through every sports program through the city rec and all that. You know, my son today works for the federal government, but you know what? He's a coach. He's a coach not only for high school part-time, but for, you know, Little League and all that. And, you know, and they don't forget, and their children are involved in sports. So I think it's something that, you know, every parent could just go out there and lend a hand. It's very important. Also, the young people coming home from college, university, during the summer, I think it's a real plus for them to get involved in something like this, because it's something that those children will connect to an adult, and they'll never forget, because I know my boys will never forget their coaches, you know, and I think it's very important. So we should all do our part in encouraging participation, and I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I appreciate all the hard work you've done. It's obvious something's going on in our community, positive, and it's because of what all you're doing out there. Partly what we've been talking about in our intergovernmental committee is building that ballpark. Obviously, there's a need for it. It can change the community. Great way to use our dollars to reduce crime and build more of a positive impact in the community. So I'm looking forward to, again, you guys succeeding here. You did it last year. It's great to see it, and hopefully soon we can come back with some presentations about the ballpark. That would be baseball, soccer, and all the different activities. So keep all our young people active. So thank you very much for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Both you and Chief. Thank you.
Yeah, hey,
we have a comment card.
Oh, yeah. Can I add one more thing
Yes.
to that, which I forgot? I should also thank Hollister School District and just mention that that's one positive thing that came out of this happening, is that they really gave us access to the R.O. Hardin fields, and I really want to thank the City Council, too, not just for the Junior Giants, but for the HITS program. Those improvements there to Dunn Park tennis courts and that ball field, I see that as a neighborhood revitalization, and to be over there on a Saturday morning and see that park full of kids, and on the other side you have a lot of people playing tennis and that other game they play with the little paddles. Pickleball. Thank you for saving me on that one. But it's just awesome to see that, you know, these efforts bring the community out and they're getting them out. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. We have a comment card.
Marty Richmond.
Yeah, if I could, before Marty comes up, Tina Garza pretty much was the hero of all these programs, and she's to be commended for all of her really good work on this. She never told me no once, so thank you, Tina.
Thank you. As many of you know, I'm from Brooklyn, so I hate the Giants. I mean, I hate the Giants with a certain kind of passion. It would be very difficult for most of you to understand. But I love this program. And so I'm grown up enough to be able to separate my personal prejudice from the actual outcome. And the reason is it's similar to what your public health official said earlier this evening. It's what you don't see that the benefit you get. In her case, she said you don't see the iron lungs anymore, and I lived through the polio epidemic. I remember the iron lungs, a lot of them. What you don't see here is every minute those children spend on the field playing, being coached, practicing, thinking about it, reading about it, whatever they do. Every minute they do that, that's a minute they're not doing something else. That might not be as beneficial to them, okay? Those are all the minutes that they're not getting in trouble. Those are all the minutes where they're not having a problem. Those are all the minutes where they're not in bad company or picking up bad habits. I know the way our society works, every once in a while the parents get to duking it out on one of these things, whether it be Little League or Little League football, not just Giants, whatever it is. And we make a big deal out of that, okay? It happens occasionally, and it's terrible. And we make, it's just so bad. Let's get rid of the program, whatever. That's crazy, because 99.9% of the time, it's a benefit. So what are we going to take? We're going to let one bad actor or two bad actors ruin it for us? That's crazy. So I encourage you to do these programs. They make the difference in a good community more than almost anything else. And the reason is there's not a lot of red tape. There's not a lot of meetings, thousands of meetings on what you're going to do and years' worth of environmental studies before anything gets done. Essentially, they go out there, they build the program, they take it, they give it to the community, and they do it. And I would not, yes, the parents' opinion is important, the coach's opinion is important, and I congratulate all of them and congratulate the police department especially for its important contribution to this. But what's more important is what the kids think of it. And although they won't put it in such fine words that you get from the parents and the coaches, what they'll say is, I had a good time, I made a new friend, I enjoyed playing the game, I did this and I did that, and those are memories you never lose, ever. Most of us grew up in environments where we could play sports, remember those times, and those memories stay with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? Again, thank you for the presentation. Good job. We're going to move to item I-81. I asked this to be brought forward to create an ad hoc committee for our roads and pavement issues. Vice Mayor Gomez and I have been working hard with COG to get a plan together, repair our roads, build some new roads in the community. We have an opportunity to finally get this done, as we all learned from that report that we saw a few meetings ago. But it's important that we get organized and do some planning so that if we're given the opportunity by the voters to finally repair our roads, we'll be ready to go quickly and get it done. So I'd like to create that ad hoc committee. I'd like to appoint myself and Vice Mayor Gomez to the committee, if the council is all right with that, so we can move forward. Is there a consensus on making that happen? Okay, I appreciate that. Vice Mayor, you're on board? Yep. And we promise we'll bring you back information, so if, again, the voters decide to move forward with the repairs of the road, we're going to have a plan put together and ready to go as quickly as possible. We'll move to item I-82.
Yeah, so I asked this to be put on the agenda last time, and I appreciate staff for getting this on as quickly as they did. I'm not sure to what depth I need to go to in the idea before I ask for direction to be able to work with staff on it, but just kind of cut me off when you get enough information. So my hope is to be able to set forth an ordinance that's going to make grocery stores over a certain square footage donate their leftover food to local nonprofits. In my conversation so far, it sounds like most of the nonprofits that deal with distribution of food get their food from the food bank. So that may be the easiest way to set it up, is that the food bank gets the food from the supermarkets. And for the most part, they're already doing that from the majority of the supermarkets. But I don't think that they're getting all of the different types of food that are going bad. It sounds like, at least for my conversations, that most of the food is baked goods. So once something's a day old or 2 days old, they go and do a bread run and they pick up the pastries and the bread and then they take it to the food bank. But I think as the food bank renovates or remodels the building that they're purchasing, there's going to be a lot more opportunity to handle produce and other types of food that are about to expire. I think when I started coming up with the idea, I started to notice how much food I was throwing away, and it's pretty terrible how much food you end up tossing out. So my hope is to be able to redistribute that food that's about to go bad. I did a little bit of research, and I think one of the concerns from supermarkets may be that they don't want to be held liable if someone gets sick from the food. But in the 90s, Congress put an act in place that was kind of like a Good Samaritan law, that as long as you were donating it in good faith, then you wouldn't be liable if someone got sick. So I think that there's an opportunity there. It's also tax deductible for their cost of the food that they're donating, so I think that's good too. Taking it a step further, obviously human consumption would be number one, but for anything that's gone bad past viability for human consumption, I'd like to have that either be given to a nonprofit that deals with animals, or if that can't be set up, to have some kind of farm, whether it's a pig farm or goats or whatever, to be able to get that produce that's gone bad past the viability of the human consumption. Further than that, I mean, it'd be nice to see composting, but I think we got to start small, and hopefully the supermarkets is the place to start. And if that goes well, eventually setting something up with restaurants so that we can limit the amount of waste that we see in the community.
Sounds like a great idea. I'd like to see more, hear more about it. Very good idea.
We have a really good attorney who's good at food stuff too.
Absolutely. No, I think it's very important.
The only thing he's good at is food stuff.
Okay,
The only,
spoiler alert.
Vice Mayor Gomez.
Yeah, I think the only, and I think it's great to, to donate and to be able to give to our local nonprofits. Obviously, I think that's key. I have problems. I do have problems with mandating our local businesses to do it. I think if they want to volunteer to do it, I think that's great. I'm speaking as a former franchisee of a pizza place, that we didn't do that, and we didn't do it for multiple reasons. Well, one of the reasons was there were some stores that were giving it away, and 3-4 days later, these pizzas would come out of the refrigerator. They would be baked. The person didn't know that it was a free pizza, and then Papa Murphy's was left with the whole, oh my God, that's your product? Like, that's terrible. Like, so there's an image that a lot of these restaurants and some of these providers need to maintain. So I think there's going to be some resistance to it, especially if you get into the restaurant area of it. But I think if it's a volunteer system where we could help them coordinate donating, what they would consider waste, I think that's a great idea. So just wanted to share that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. J.K.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor? All right, motion carries 5-0 vote. Thank you, everyone.
We just started composting ourselves. We were getting killed on dump.
Don't fix that mic, okay? Because I'm used to it. Hey, Marty, who was the best center fielder?